6, this is a bit odd, isn't it? Being on here rather than face to face. I really thought when we started this week we would all be all together. But never mind, we are very adaptable in Year 6, so here we go. Now this is kind of our English lesson for today. So this is our LO, to make notes about the Hobbit hole and write descriptive sentences. Last week we wrote about the Hobbit and everything about the Hobbit, everything that described the Hobbit. But this week we're going to write about the Hobbit hole and how to describe the Hobbit hole. So, these are kind of our 3 steps of today, and these are kind of going to be the steps that you take to make this lesson really successful at home. First thing you've got to do is you've got to listen to Mrs. Whale. So Mrs. Whale has recorded the Hobbit for us, and she took home the book, so she has it at home. She's going to record the first chapter of the Hobbit for us, which is lovely of her. Otherwise we'd have a bit of a hard time describing the Hobbit hole without any help from the book. So the first thing is listen to it, and we're going to make some notes. I'll give you an example of that in a minute. After that you're going to do a little bit of thesaurus work. Now I know a lot of you won't have thesauruses at home. Don't panic, we can do a lot of it on the internet, that's absolutely fine. And then thirdly we are going to be writing some sentences about the Hobbit hole. So let's start at the beginning. Mrs. Whale will start reading chapter 1. And I am thinking as I'm listening, now you might want to shut your eyes, you might want to leave your eyes open, you might want to write notes as we go along. I'm thinking, how is the Hobbit hole described? So whenever she's reading, in my head I'm thinking, oh yes, I can picture that round door, I can picture the flowing river, or all the pegs down the corridor, wherever it might be. So if she was reading, it starts off by saying about the Hobbit hole and the fact that it's not nasty, it's not dirty, it's not filled with worms, and then it goes on to describe the front door. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start it with a mind map, and if you go on to your assignments on Teams, you will see that I've saved that for you. So I'm just going to write the Hobbit hole in the middle. So Hobbit hole, and it's everything about the Hobbit hole. And I'm going to start with the outside. Now you'll find loads more than I will as I'm just speaking on here. But the outside of the Hobbit hole, it says it has a perfectly round door like a porthole. Well, as I'm listening, that's the first thing that I'm going to jot down. So a perfectly round door. Now a porthole is what you see on a boat. So it's a perfectly round window really that you get on a boat, and it is where people can obviously see in and out of the window, but yeah, normally on boats and round. So perfectly round door like a porthole, so I'm just going to write that, like a porthole. Okay, there we go. And then it says it's painted green, so again I'm just going to jot this down, green, and in my head I'm thinking, what's another word for green? Now you might come to that in the thesaurus bit, so just wait a minute. And then it goes on to say a yellow brass knob in the exact middle. Well, that's important, so let's write that down. So a yellow brass. Brass is a type of metal, and it's kind of like almost like a bronzy goldy colour. It's a nice colour. So a yellow brass knob exactly in the middle of the door. So in your head you should have this amazing picture of this incredible round door. Well, we don't see many round doors around here, do we? So that's kind of where I'm going to start. The book then goes on to talk about the door opened onto a tube-shaped like hall, like a tunnel, and it didn't have any smoke, it had panelled walls, so all those things you jot down on here. But you'd probably write corridor, and then you'd kind of jot those things down. So I'm going to stop for a minute because I don't want to do all your work for you. So listen and make notes. Well, we've done that. Well, for the outside anyway. You'll carry on to do it for the whole of the Hobbit hole. But for the outside, I think we've done that. We've got a perfect picture of this door. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is the thesaurus. Now, I'm just going to model this just for the outside door bit. Okay? Now, for thesaurus, well, I've already had a little bit of a thought. Green, and for this, you're going to use thesaurus, which I will save the link on. You literally just type in the word. So you type in the word green. I don't know, green's okay, but I can think of a better word. type in the word green, and then it'll come up with lots of different examples. Now green, I'm thinking of another word, and it's emerald. Now emerald is another word for green, quite a like a pretty green. Emerald is a type of gem. So I'm just going to jot that down underneath it, emerald. And this is just so our reader, as they're reading our description later on in the week, can get a really good idea of what the Hobbit hole looked like. Okay, so I've got emerald here. You will come up with loads of other words. So you might want to write round, and you might want to find another word for round, or you might want to look up kind of a yellow, another word for yellow. You might describe this as gold instead of brass. You know, have a little bit of a play with it. So that's kind of the thesaurus bit. You're thinking of lots of different words to do with these words here to make our writing more exciting. Now the next bit, the last bit, is all about our sentences. So we want to write some sentences just to help us out when it actually comes to the writing, because then we've already done some of the hard work, which we love. So you're going to write some sentences about the Hobbit hole. Now, I'm going to write one, and I want you to have a think whether you think it's a good sentence or a bad sentence. So I'm just thinking I've run out a little bit of space. So what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to rub this bit off here, just so I've still got my stuff about the outdoors. Here we go. So I've still got this bit here. That's all about the outdoors. The outside. I'm just going to keep because that's my notes. Okay. So I'm going to write my sentence here, and I want you to have a look and think, good or bad. So, the Hobbit hole had a round door. Okay, the Hobbit hole had a round door. So now you need to be thinking, good sentence or bad sentence? Well, it's an okay sentence. It makes sense. It has a full stop at the end, capital letter at the beginning. It makes sense. It describes the Hobbit hole. Definitely, 100%. And if you wrote that, fine. However, we are in year 6, so we're going to try and stretch ourselves a little bit. I'm thinking, can we think of another word to describe the round door? Well, actually, we've already got it written down here, and we took it directly from this book. So I'm going to add perfectly in there. The Hobbit hole had a perfectly round door. Okay, I'm not going to stop there. Let's think. So we've written about that, so I'm just going to give that a little bit of a tick. We could write it's like a porthole, again taken straight from the book. The Hobbit hole had a perfectly round door. We're going to get rid of our full stop here because we're continuing the sentence with, oh sorry, not with, like a porthole. Okay, full stop there. So what do you think of that sentence now? It's an okay sentence? Yeah. The Hobbit hole had a perfectly round door like a porthole. Love it. Okay. Now I'm thinking, when I've written about that, I haven't told the reader it's emerald or green yet. You can choose which word you want to use. You might find your own words that you think is better. So emerald or green, and I need to write about the knob exactly in the middle. So the Hobbit hole had a perfectly round door like a porthole. I'm going to write a new sentence now. It was painted, oh, it's getting a bit low. It was painted an emerald. Oh, I'm going to write, it was painted green. It was painted green a little bit like an emerald. So an, because it ends in E, remember? An emerald. So remember, an emerald's an actual gem, so you can say it's like a gem. A bit like an emerald. So it was painted green, a little bit like an emerald, comma, and had, oh dear, we're getting very low, my handwriting's getting scruffy, and had a yellow, comma, because this is an expanded noun phrase, yellow brass knob. Maybe I could write exactly in the middle, but I'm going to stop there because I've run out of space. Okay, let's just read it all together just to make sure. So the hobbit hole had a perfectly round door like a porthole. It was painted green, a little bit like an emerald, and had a yellow brass knob. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I think that describes the outside. Now, when you're actually writing it in the full, you're going to you might write this a little bit differently. But at the moment, I've got two really good sentences that describe the outside of the hobbit hole. Now, you are going to write sentences about the corridor, about the kitchens, about the pantries, about the bedrooms, about all the wardrobes that he has. And you might want to use some subordinate conjunctions like he has many pantries because he loves to eat, for example. So that is your job for today. Listen and make notes about the Hobbit. Think about a thesaurus. So you can use an online thesaurus. I'll put a link in Teams. That's fine. I'll put this. Look up the words in the thesaurus. Think of maybe some different, like green and emerald, that kind of thing. I'm sure you can think of loads more. And then you're going to write some sentences all about the Hobbit hole. I would aim for about 6 sentences, and you can type up where I've saved it on Teams, and then Mrs. Well or I will have a check of it and make sure that we can help you if you need any help. Okay, I'm excited to see your work. See you later.